This is Eyewitness News on LA56 with live breaking news.
Oh my gosh, it was so terrifying. We're on the second story, so it just felt like the whole building was going to come down.
A major earthquake in the heart of Northern California's wine country. Historic buildings are damaged, roads are cracked, and scores of people are injured. The earthquake sparked several fires. Tonight we're hearing a heartbreaking story from one couple who lost everything. And there's a massive cleanup job ahead. Businesses and homeowners are trying to salvage whatever they can. Good evening, I'm Jory Rand. Welcome to Eyewitness News on LA56. It's the strongest earthquake to hit the Bay Area in 25 years. The 6.0 quake struck early this morning in the heart of California's wine country. Historic buildings crumbled, roads buckled, and gas leaks touched off several fires. Dozens of people are injured, and some are now homeless tonight. ABC's Akiko Fujita is live in Napa, just 6 miles away from that epicenter of the quake today, and we go to her live for a report.
Standing in one of those neighborhoods that was hardest hit. This is a mobile home park, but you see where 4 of those homes stood. Now a complete loss. Residents out here say they had just seconds to get out once those powerful earthquakes struck and ruptured the gas lines and sparked fires. Tonight, those same residents are still without power and water. The powerful quake rattled the heart of California's wine country, sending bottles flying off the shelves, residents scrambling for cover. In this mobile home park, the tremors were so strong they ruptured gas lines, sparking fires overnight.
There was some explosions, and it was burning, and everybody was out in the street.
Nola Rollins' home was one of 4 destroyed here. Firefighters struggled to put out the blaze with water mains leaking.
Almost all my valuable stuff was in the bedroom, so most everything's gone.
Downtown, the magnitude 6.0 quake crumbled historic buildings, buckled roads. Dozens of aftershocks that followed, rattling store owners like Pam Moorhead.
They said that was not a priority, but the building, if this keeps up, the building's going to collapse.
200 people have been treated for minor injuries so far, but 2 patients remain in critical condition. The most powerful quake to strike here in 25 years, raising questions tonight about renewed seismic activity. Keep in mind, seismic activity here has been nearly dormant for much of the last 20 years. Governor Jerry Brown has declared a state of emergency with hundreds still without power and water tonight. Reporting live in Napa, California, Akiko Fujita, ABC News. Back to you.
Thank you, Akiko. And we have breaking news. We just had a small earthquake here in Southern California. It was a magnitude 3.3 centered near Rolling Hills. The earthquake struck just before 8, about 7 miles south of Rolling Hills. Eyewitness News viewers felt a jolt in Torrance, Long Beach, even as far away as Canoga Park. So far, no reports of any damage or injuries.
Now back to Napa. As you saw in Akiko's report, the earthquake sparked a devastating fire that burned several mobile homes in Napa Valley. One couple whose home burned to the ground tells their heartbreaking story.
The earth moved, the house moved.
It was on fire, and our neighbors over here, Paula and her son Rory, thank you guys, came over. The house was on fire. You couldn't. It was bad.
You guys were sleeping, I take it?
Oh, yeah.
Did you wake up with the earthquake?
We didn't really know what happened. It was the house was already on fire, and it was hard to get out because it was separated from the. It was really scary.
As you're standing here, how you feeling?
I feel like we lost everything.
Yeah, we lost everything.
But we're not everything. Not everything, honey.
Officials say they were delayed fighting the fires because after the gas mains broke, the water lines broke too. All they could do was evacuate residents until their own plumber trucks could be brought in to bring water.
Our newsroom has been flooded with video and photos from today's strong quake. Eyewitness News reporter Leanne Suter gives us a look at some of the damage and reaction from residents.
residents say it sounded like a freight train as the 6.0 earthquake ripped through the Bay Area.
I felt like I was in a nightmare because I was just moving. It was shaking. My house was shaking. My bed was shaking. And I started screaming because I've never experienced an earthquake like this.
The quake hit in the heart of California's wine country, damaging some of the region's famed wineries. All across the area, bottles of wine ended up broken and shattered. Grocery store aisles were littered with merchandise as the tremblor shook everything from the shelves.
It felt like a ride. It felt much like being on a roller coaster and felt like it was for much longer than it actually was. Felt like it was occurring for about 5 minutes.
The quake, which hit just before dawn, sent residents running out into the darkness, including guests at area hotels, which are filled to capacity, some capturing the leaking sprinklers and alarms on cameras they escaped. Inside homes, bookcases were toppled, kitchen cabinets emptied of their contents. This home surveillance video gives you a clear picture of just how powerful the quake was. Watch as the vehicles are shaken like toys.
You just felt like the whole house was just moving back and forth, and my wife was screaming, but you just feel a little bit powerless at that moment.
Now that the shaking has stopped, at least for now, the cleanup is underway. For winemakers in Napa Valley, the quake, though, couldn't have come at a worse time as they have just started harvesting this year's crop. In the newsroom, Leanne Suter, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
This earthquake comes after a quarter-century of relatively low seismic activity in that area, but people are now worried this might be a sign of bad things to come. ABC's Vazi Kanani explains.
The earthquake jolting Northern California today struck more than 6 miles beneath the Earth's surface, somewhere between these two fault lines, the Hayward-Rogers and the Concord Green. This type of quake called a strike slip, when two parts of the Earth's crust slide sideways against each other. This morning, California's early warning system gave scientists in Berkeley this 10-second warning before the quake. They're still just testing the system, but hoping that one day everyone could get this critical alert. The last such major quake in Northern California 25 years ago, when the 7.1 Loma Prieta quake brought down part of the San Francisco Bay Bridge. Just 5 months ago, a 5.1 quake near Los Angeles shook shelves, triggered a rock slide, and burst water mains. Nearly all of California in the danger zone for a big one. In fact, scientists say the state has a 99% chance of a quake 6.7 magnitude or greater in the next 30 years. The 1994 Northridge earthquake that killed nearly 60 and injured 5,000 was a 6.7. Researchers now using simulators like this fake trembler to test how earthquake-resistant construction stands up to a quake that size. Seismologists are warning people about the danger of aftershocks, and there is still up to a 10% chance that this quake could be a foreshock, and an even bigger quake could be coming within a week. Vazi Kanani, ABC News, Washington.
And let's get the latest now on the 6.0 earthquake in Napa. It struck at 3:20 this morning. More than 170 people were treated for quake-related injuries. One person remains in critical condition. A 13-year-old boy was also injured and airlifted to UC Davis Medical Center. We don't know his condition at this time. The quake caused at least 6 fires. Firefighters had trouble getting water to fight the fires after 60 water mains ruptured. There were also reports of 100 gas leaks. The earthquake is the largest to hit the Bay Area in 25 years. The deadly Loma Prieta quake struck in 1989. And we'll continue to provide updates throughout the newscast. And for the latest anytime, just head to our website, abc7.com. You'll find a photo gallery of the damage in Napa and a look at other major quakes to hit the area. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to get the latest updates no matter where you are. Also on abc7.com, you can click on our Prepare SoCal link. You'll find the tools you need to keep you and your family safe when a major disaster strikes.
There were some dangerous conditions here in Southern California as well today. We turn things over to Jonathan Novak, who's in for Danny tonight with a look at the weather. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, that's right. The surf today, pretty rough, huh? Out there in the ocean, we saw seas about 4 to 7, even 8 feet this weekend. We're going to have a lull tomorrow, but then things kick back into even higher gear later on in the week. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. 68 right now at LAX. We have the clouds rolling back in tonight. Burbank 72, beautiful. 72 degrees. Can't beat that. 77 in Oxnard. Good evening to you. And 70 over in Long Beach, 79 Victorville. A very warm evening, but temperatures are a little bit below average, and they'll stay that way for another day before things start maybe heating up a bit. I'll tell you more about that. We have to look to the south, though. Hurricane Marie, 150-mile-an-hour winds right now, moving to the west-northwest. That will impact our marine forecast as we head into the middle of the week. I'm going to tell you about that in the 7-day because it's a serious situation, in fact, but at least for the morning, let me at least get you out the door tomorrow morning. 60 degrees. We're nearing 80 by noon. Another somewhat warm day below average. Beautiful stuff ahead. Temperatures going up. I'll tell you about that and that high surf coming up in the 7-day.
Jonathan, thank you. The search is on for 2 gunmen who apparently went on a random shooting spree, firing out of their vehicle in the San Fernando Valley this morning, leaving 3 people dead at 3 separate locations within the space of an hour. Shortly before 6 a.m., 5 family members were hit by gunfire inside their SUV in San Fernando. One of them, a woman in her 20s, was killed. Next to die was a man walking in a Sylmar Park, followed by a 59-year-old woman shot in the head as she sat in her car waiting for a friend in Pacoima.
It's hard to get into the frame of mind of the suspect. The suspect is just randomly picking out victims and shooting at them.
Police have only a vague description of the suspects, 2 Hispanic men in a golden or tan SUV, but they are studying surveillance video and following up on several leads. In the meantime, people in the San Fernando Valley are urged to be on alert.
Coming up next, much more coverage of today's earthquake in Napa Valley.
And 3 people are recovering after being shot at an exclusive West Hollywood nightclub. Authorities say one of the injured is a rap mogul.
And a major warning is issued for people living and working along some of Southern California's beaches. We'll have details on where surf levels could reach their highest point in years.
A look now at more of the images from today's 6.0 earthquake in Napa. Look at all those things that fell in that store there. Again, 2 people are critically injured, more than 170 injured as well. Went to the hospital for minor injuries. Again, this is the largest quake in the Bay Area since the Loma Prieta 6.9 magnitude quake back in 1989.
In West Hollywood, 3 people are recovering after being shot at an exclusive nightclub. Authorities say rap mogul Suge Knight is one of the victims. The shooting happened at a party hosted by Chris Brown. Eyewitness News reporter Amy Powell has the details.
Frantic moments after shots are fired inside a packed West Hollywood nightclub, captured on cell phone video. Hundreds of people streaming outside the club called One Oak, gathering on Sunset Boulevard as police surround the building.
Everyone just ran in a panic. Everyone was screaming and running.
3 people were struck by gunfire and hospitalized for treatment, including rap mogul Marion Suge Knight. The event was hosted by R&B singer Chris Brown.
Apparently, some altercation took place inside. Somebody pulled out a gun and started shooting. A person by the name of Suge Knight ended up getting shot. Was taken to the hospital.
The club gathering was a pre-party leading up to tonight's MTV Video Music Awards. Witnesses say Brown was singing and dancing moments before the gunfire started.
I looked downstairs and people were pushing, running, glass was smashing everywhere, but Chris Brown still stood up. And then everyone was trying, like security guards were trying to grab him to pull him away.
Authorities say Brown left the club before they could question him about the incident. Suge Knight and the other 2 victims are expected to survive their injuries. Knight, the founder of Death Row Records, has had many brushes with the law. He's been in and out of jail several times over the past 2 decades. In 2005, he was shot in the leg during an MTV Awards pre-party in Miami. And in 1996, he was in the car when rapper Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas. Authorities say they haven't yet arrested any suspects in connection with last night's shooting.
There was a lot of people in there last night. You know, so a lot of people saw what happened. A lot of people know what happened. And if they'd like to call in and call Sheriff's Homicide or West Hollywood Sheriff Station, give us a call.
And authorities say if you have information about last night's shooting, you can also call Crime Stoppers and remain anonymous. In West Hollywood, Amy Powell, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
2 people, including a 2-year-old child, have drowned in an East Vale swimming pool. Authorities say deputies were called out to a residence on the 6900 block of Farm All Way around 8:30 this morning. A 2-year-old child and a 34-year-old female were pronounced dead at the scene. Their relationship is unknown.
A recovery effort for a missing swimmer who disappeared during big waves in Dana Point has now been called off. Orange County lifeguards, sheriff's deputies, and the U.S. Coast Guard spent a second day looking for the swimmer this morning off Salt Creek Beach. He's only been identified as a 60-year-old man from out of state. Lifeguards say he was last seen by family and friends in the water body surfing yesterday morning. Authorities say while active search efforts have been called off, crews will continue to monitor the area from the ground and air over the next couple of days.
Dangerous high surf is expected at south-facing beaches Tuesday through Friday. Officials say this could be the highest surf we've seen in recent years, with waves from 10 to 15 feet, causing possible structure damage and beach erosion. Authorities warn there could be very strong and dangerous rip currents. Waves could top rocks, jetties, and there could be minor coastal flooding as well, especially near high tide. The high surf is due to Hurricane Marie, which is expected to strengthen quickly into a major hurricane in the eastern Pacific.
And Jonathan Novak joining us now, and that hurricane, it's already there.
150-mile-an-hour winds.
Already hurricane.
Yeah, it's probably peaked in intensity, but by the time it gets to where Lowell is now, what was left of Lowell, the surf will have already kicked in here locally. That would be Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to talk about it right now. I'm going to lay everything out for you. We've got a lot going on, actually. Let's start off locally, though. It was beautiful today. I mean, you're going to be tempted to head to the water. Just stay out of it this weekend, or this week, and this weekend. It was rough this weekend, too. Live Megadopler 7000 HD showing a dry picture. Tonight is beautiful. This is a time-lapse from earlier. We actually saw high cloud cover come in from the remnants of Lowell, way offshore. That also, Lowell, the remnants of which gave us that rough surf this weekend with that southerly swell. But again, Marie's going to be much stronger, and when it's where Lowell is, now it's going to be bringing us really high surf come Tuesday, Wednesday. 83 was our high today in downtown, below average by a couple of degrees. 70 right now in downtown. Beautiful evening. Temperatures are pretty much right where they were last night, within a degree or two. 67. Good evening, Ojai. 66 for you in Oxnard, and if you're watching in Wrightwood, your current temperature is 67 degrees. In Palm Springs, hanging out in the mid-90s still. Low pressure is the weather maker up to the northwest of us here. It's digging down just a little bit on Monday, and that's going to keep us in that offshore flow, or the onshore flow, I should say. High pressure off to the west. So if you have that onshore flow, and as that continues to hang out for a day, that means the temperatures will be below average. We have the marine layer in place. It's not going to be as prevalent tomorrow morning. It won't push as far inland as we saw this weekend, but it's still going to be there for, I'd say, until the mid-morning hours, and then we'll clear it out and at the coast as well. Things are going to look nice tomorrow. Down to the south, Hurricane Marie, winds of 150, now moving to the west-northwest at 12 miles an hour. It actually should be 14 miles an hour. That's the remnants of Lowell. You can see some of those clouds got streamed in here to Southern California late in the day today. That was giving us the southerly swell, that southerly push this weekend. Marie is forecast to be right about here come next week, and that's going to do the same thing, except a lot stronger. And seas could be 7, 10 plus feet. And that, as you were just talking about, you guys, we could see some damage to structures. We could definitely see some major beach erosion. The future scan shows that low lifting out by Tuesday. High pressure will build in by Tuesday, Wednesday. That means temperatures are going up. The marine layer won't be as much of an issue, and we're actually going to see highs getting back above average by Wednesday and Thursday. There's Marie, and again, Marie's going to give us that southerly push in that ocean. That's going to really kick up the seas. Stay out of the water this week starting on Tuesday. For tonight, mostly clear, morning clouds. High desert 64. The mountains are coolish 44 in the morning time. 7-day forecast. LA Metro and Orange County powered up by AccuWeather. 80 tomorrow, lower 80s on Tuesday, but you see we start warming up there. 88, big jump on Wednesday for those temps. 90s for Thursday, and we'll cool it down a little bit by the end of the week. Notice there a little bit of tropical cloud cover possible from Marie come mid to late week, but no rain. I'm going to keep the rain out of the forecast. Valleys, IE, mid to upper 80s for a couple of days, and you're back to average finally by Wednesday, getting hot by Thursday. The mountains, you can't ask for anything better than that. Lower 70s for a couple of days, back nearing 80 on Thursday, and then the high desert, 90, well below average. You guys are used to those upper 90s by, this time of year, and you'll have that by Wednesday, Thursday. No rain. Watch out for the high surf come this Tuesday, Wednesday. It's going to be an issue.
Got to be careful. Thanks, Jonathan. A vigil is underway at Birmingham High School in Van Nuys for the victims of Friday's deadly crash in Sylmar. The 3 College of the Canyons football players graduated from Birmingham. 2 of them were killed in the crash. The 3rd remains hospitalized. Authorities say the driver, 18-year-old Eldridge Salguero, lost control of his vehicle and swerved into oncoming traffic, hitting a minivan. Salguero was critically injured. 2 people in the van were also injured. 19-year-old Isaiah Hastings of Lancaster and 18-year-old Alexander Manu of Reseda were killed. Still no word on what caused the accident. And a vigil is scheduled tomorrow for the San Bernardino police officer shot while on patrol. The service will take place at the Bernardino 66ers Stadium at 7 p.m. 31-year-old Gabe Garcia continues to fight for his life after being shot in the head on Friday. Garcia and his partner stopped to talk to a group of people on Garner Avenue when a man suddenly pulled out a gun and opened fire. Garcia's partner shot and killed the suspect. Garcia remains hospitalized in a medically induced coma, but according to the department's Facebook page, Garcia is responding to treatment.
Ahead on Eyewitness News, the very latest on the Napa Valley earthquake.
There is extensive damage. We'll have a look at how the area is being impacted.
And we're learning an American hostage held for 2 years by an al-Qaeda-linked group in Syria is now free. The details next. Here's the latest on the 6.0 quake in Napa. It struck at 3:20 this morning. More than 170 people were treated for quake-related injuries. One person remains in critical condition. A 13-year-old boy was also injured and airlifted to UC Davis Children's Hospital in serious condition. The quake caused at least 6 fires. Firefighters had trouble getting water to fight the fires after 60 water mains ruptured. There were also reports of 100 gas leaks. The earthquake is the largest to hit the Bay Area in 25 years. The deadly Loma Prieta quake struck in 1989.
Turning now to the Middle East, where an American who was held for 2 years by a terror group in Syria is free tonight. As his family celebrates, the family of James Foley held a memorial service today. He's the man shown on video being executed by ISIS rebels. ABC's Jonathan Carl has more.
Peter Theo Curtis had been held hostage by terrorists in Syria for nearly 2 years. Now he is finally free. Originally from Massachusetts, Curtis is a 45-year-old writer who also goes by the name Theo Padnos and has spent the last several years in Syria and elsewhere in the Middle East. He was held by an al-Qaeda-linked group known as al-Nusra. This is a different terrorist group from ISIS, which killed American journalist Jim Foley. Secretary of State John Kerry said the U.S. had worked with more than 24 countries over the past 2 years to get him freed. His family said no ransom was paid. Meanwhile, in New Hampshire, a memorial for Jim Foley. Friends and family gathered to remember the journalist brutally murdered by ISIS and called a hero by President Obama. And while U.S. warplanes hit more ISIS targets in Iraq today, the terror group scored another big victory in Syria, capturing a major airbase from the Syrian government. Another reason defeating ISIS means fighting them in Syria as well as Iraq, as the former top U.S. commander in Afghanistan told George Stephanopoulos today.
It's going to require a comprehensive approach to strike ISIS throughout the entire network of its organization.
That was Jonathan Carl reporting. White House officials say specific military proposals have yet to be presented to President Obama.
Much more news still to come on Eyewitness News at 8:30 here on LA56, including an update on the earthquake that rocked Napa this morning.
We'll show you the damage to some historic buildings there.
And it wasn't just buildings that were damaged. Winemakers lost a huge part of their stock.
And an early warning system can mean the difference between life and death. We'll show you how the system worked in today's quake.
This is Eyewitness News on LA56 with live breaking news.
We begin here at 8:30 with breaking news. I'm Giovanna Lotta.
And I'm Jory Rand. Here is the latest at 8:30. You may have felt a small earthquake here in Southern California. It was a magnitude 3.3 centered near Rolling Hills. The earthquake struck just before 8, about 7 miles south of Rolling Hills. Eyewitness News viewers said they felt a jolt in Torrance, Long Beach, even as far away as Canoga Park. We have had more than 800 comments on our Facebook page so far. No reports of any damage or injuries.
Meantime, an update on the 6.0 quake in Napa Valley. It struck at 3:20 this morning. Hello, I'm Giovanna Lotta. More than 170 people were treated for quake-related injuries. One person remains in critical condition. The quake caused at least 6 fires. Firefighters had trouble getting water to fight the fires after 60 water mains ruptured. There were also reports of 100 gas leaks. The earthquake is the largest to hit the Bay Area in 25 years. The deadly Loma Prieta quake struck in 1989. And that quake hit in the dead of night, setting off raging fires and sending bottles flying off store shelves. The governor has declared a state of emergency tonight. ABC's Ryan Owens has the latest.
3:20 a.m., a powerful quake jolts tens of thousands right out of bed. The 6.0 is the strongest to hit Northern California in more than 2 decades. This family just trying to make sure everyone's okay. Dozens of buildings in Napa's historic downtown are damaged. An entire wall of this 3-story building gone, and roads ripped apart and buckled. The quake also ruptured gas lines, causing these mobile homes to explode in flames. 4 of them destroyed, another 2 with major damage.
I felt the earthquake, and I looked out of my front window immediately, and I saw flames. Fire just exploded. Just in a matter of a couple of minutes, it just erupted. It was frightening. It was terrifying.
The earthquake also broke water mains, which made fighting the fires futile. With no water to douse them, firefighters could do little more than watch the homes burn.
We did have a major water main break just outside the mobile home park, and which really complicated the firefight. It did certainly make things a little bit more difficult for us.
The firefighters were able to stop the flames from spreading, but for these residents, it was just too late.
The earth moved, the house moved.
We didn't really know what happened. The house was already on fire, and it was hard to get out. It was really scary.
I feel like we lost everything.
Yeah, we lost everything.
But we're not everything. Not everything.
But at least they weren't hurt. 120 people here are. Doctors say most have cuts and bruises, but 3 patients have critical injuries, including a child hit by a piece of a crumbling chimney.
That was Ryan Owens reporting. A 13-year-old boy injured today is in serious condition.
Winemakers in Napa Valley woke up today to thousands of broken bottles and barrels. The earthquake couldn't have come at a worse time for the region, which had just started harvesting this year's crop. One winemaker says he lost 50% of his wine. His bottles retail between $40 and $100. Another winery says one lost barrel of Pinot Noir was worth $16,000. Elsewhere in the region, red wine stains were visible outside doors and warehouses.
Tonight, businesses are just beginning to take stock of the damage caused by the earthquake. Reporter Matt Keller from our sister station KGO has more.
An image frozen in time on 3rd Street in downtown Napa. At 3:20 a.m., the large earthquake rolled through, knocking out electricity. Glass was broken and doors knocked off hinges. At Lucero Olive Oil, the treasured product was toppled from the store's shelves and spilled out onto the sidewalk. It wasn't the shaking, but the water that did the most damage to McCullough's on 2nd and Franklin Streets. Water poured out from the top of the entrance, flooding the courtyard and the floor of the department store.
The ceiling is crashed. Yeah. Oh. The ceiling is crashed. The whole store is like that on the other side.
Sad to see, huh?
It's bad.
Eventually, the water was turned off, but the damage was done. Nearby, the Norman Rose Tavern needed a dumpster to clean up the mess.
Broken glass, bottles, wine, just stuff like that.
Building safety was a main issue. The city sent out inspectors. We watched as workers taped off areas, including in front of the Andaz Hotel on 2nd Street. The building had cracks and debris fell on the sidewalk. All 141 rooms were evacuated right after the quake. Guests gathered outside with their luggage. Some had to avoid broken glass getting out of the hotel, including Carrie Kassler. She went to the hospital for stitches.
They did a really nice job with triage. They had an entire tent for people with lacerations because there were a lot of people.
And that was Matt Keller reporting. Visitors are still being encouraged to come to the area, but be sure to call your hotel and check on accommodations beforehand.
In an earthquake, every second counts, and a warning system can save lives, possibly even your own. The head start can be enough to get to a safer location and allow emergency personnel time to react.
You're listening to the future of earthquake warning systems.
Earthquake, light, shaking expected in 3 seconds.
In a quake, when mere moments could mean the difference between life and death, even a few seconds warning can save lives and prevent injuries.
The system is in operation throughout the state, actually throughout the entire western U.S. The system did work this morning, provided about 10 seconds warning to the area in the San Francisco region.
This video, released by scientists at UC Berkeley of today's Napa earthquake, shows how the system works. Because earthquakes move outward from the epicenter at the speed of sound, and this warning moves at the speed of light, the warning arrives before the shaking does. For now, because the system is still in its beta testing form, only test groups and academic institutions got today's warning. But the plan is to find the best way to allow everyone in California and beyond to have access to it during future earthquakes.
The system is still in a developmental state, and so the warnings are not being broadcast publicly through the emergency broadcast system. And that's something that we're trying to develop to figure out what is the most efficient way to get that warning out as quickly as possible. And we're talking about a system that has to go out in a matter of seconds.
Ideally, it would give residents time to prepare for the quake, like protecting themselves from falling objects or turning off their gas. But it also could allow trains to automatically slow down or stop, elevators to stop and open their doors on a floor before power goes out, or alert surgeons in the middle of operations to remove their scalpels before the shaking begins.
Here again is the latest on the 6.0 quake in Napa. It struck at 3:20 this morning. More than 170 people were treated for quake-related injuries. One person remains in critical condition. A 13-year-old boy was also injured and airlifted to UC Davis Children's Hospital in serious condition. The quake caused at least 6 fires. Firefighters had trouble getting water to fight the fires after 60 water mains ruptured. There were also reports of 100 gas leaks. The earthquake is the largest to hit the Bay Area in 25 years. The deadly Loma Prieta quake struck in 1989. And use the free ABC7 app to get all of the latest information on the Napa quake. Just download it from the iTunes App Store, Google Play, or Amazon. Also on ABC7.com, you can click on our Prepare SoCal link. You'll find the tools you need to keep you and your family safe when a major disaster strikes.
Time now to check in with Jonathan Novak, who is here with the first look at our forecast. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, folks. Good evening. Beautiful weekend we had, except we have to worry about that surf this weekend with seas about 4 to 7 feet. And it's only the beginning, because this week we have to worry about some even higher surf, and we'll get to that in a moment. LAX right now, beautiful. 68 degrees. Clear skies, actually. There's a few clouds at the coast, but mostly clear. We're going to roll in the low clouds overnight again as that marine layer builds in. Temperatures in the 70s for just about everybody. It's about right where we were last night. So if you're wondering what it's going to be like tonight, just if you were out last night, it's about the same. We had some high cloud cover come in late in the day. That was from what's left of Lowell. That gave us some high surf this weekend that I just mentioned. We have even higher surf ahead, potentially 7 to 10 feet with what is now a high surf advisory in effect starting on Tuesday that goes all the way through Friday. And I'll tell you more about that, why that is, and what's going on with the temperatures, because they're going to be heating up quite a bit, that 7-day forecast. That's coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Ahead on Eyewitness News, an update on the major quake in Northern California. We'll show you new images of the damage.
And in Ferguson, Missouri, the family of Michael Brown is preparing for his funeral. We'll update you on the situation there.
Plus, more violence in the Middle East. We'll have the latest on the situation in Gaza.
Welcome back. We continue our breaking news coverage as more images of today's 6.0 earthquake in Napa continue to come in. You can see roads buckled in stores. Wine and other products fell off the shelves. The cleanup is currently underway. More than 150 people were injured. 6 are in critical condition. We'll continue to update you throughout our newscast.
In Ferguson, Missouri, the family of Michael Brown is preparing for his funeral tomorrow. Brown is the 18-year-old unarmed teenager shot 6 times by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. Officer Wilson reportedly suffered a serious facial injury in the scuffle before the shooting, which set off days of unrest. President Obama is sending 3 White House aides to Brown's funeral. A grand jury is determining whether Officer Wilson should be indicted. The federal government is also conducting its own investigation.
New violence in the Mideast today as the battle between Israel and militants in Gaza continues. A 5-story building in Gaza was completely destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. This after a 7-story office building was leveled earlier in the day and an apartment tower was demolished by Israeli missiles yesterday. In Israel, hundreds of mourners attended a funeral service for a 4-year-old boy who was killed by a Palestinian mortar attack on Friday. Dueling events on this Independence Day in Ukraine. In Kiev, soldiers paraded, many of them involved in the fighting against separatists in the eastern part of that country. Wreaths were placed at a memorial to the estimated 100 protesters who were killed by police snipers during the uprising 6 months ago that toppled the Moscow-backed regime. In rebel-held territory in Donetsk, captured military hardware was on display and captive Ukrainian soldiers were paraded through the streets.
Legendary British actor and Academy Award-winning director Richard Attenborough has died. Attenborough's career spanned 60 years. His son says his father had been in poor health for some time and died today. He was knighted in 1976 and won an Oscar for Best Director with Gandhi in 1982. Younger audiences may recall his roles in the 1990s as the failed theme park developer in Jurassic Park and Kris Kringle in a remake of Miracle on 34th Street. Attenborough was 90 years old.
A magnitude 6.0 earthquake in Northern California today.
Up next, the latest on the injuries and the damage in Napa.
And a warning for swimmers at a local beach. A shark sighting has lifeguards on high alert. What you need to know coming up. Welcome back. Let's update once again the Napa earthquake that struck at 3:20 this morning. More than 170 people were treated for earthquake-related injuries. One person remains in critical condition. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency for southern Napa County, directing state agencies to respond with equipment and personnel. The earthquake is the largest to hit the Bay Area in 25 years. The deadly Loma Prieta quake struck back in 1989.
There was another shark sighting near the Manhattan Beach Pier today, but there were no reports of any trouble in the water. An LA County Sheriff's helicopter spotted 4 sharks this morning circling swimmers, and that warning was sent out as a text alert. It comes 1.5 weeks after a shark was spotted in the same area, and earlier this summer, a man was bitten by a shark off Manhattan Beach. One longtime surfer told us he is not concerned.
It's a pretty common occurrence anyway, so they're docile creatures and we don't bug them, they don't bug us.
Lifeguards at Manhattan Beach determined that those 4 sharks seen today were not a threat.
All right, Jonathan Novak is in for Danny Romero tonight with a look at our forecast.
Stay out of the water, not just because of the sharks, but we have some extremely high surf ahead. The worst southerly swell surf event that we have seen in years, potentially property damage, we've got the risk rip currents. We're going to get to it all. Let's see what's happening outside right now. I mean, it's beautiful. The thing is, it's so tempting to head to the water and get in there, but this week, just stay out of it. If you're going to head to the beach, get your tan on the sand and keep it at that. This was a time lapse a little bit earlier. LAX, clear skies as the sun went down, but we are seeing the clouds roll back in tonight, and the marine layer is in the forecast for tomorrow. 72 in Burbank. Good evening to you. 76 in Palmdale. We're pretty much right spot on, give or take a degree, where we were last night for temperatures. 77 Ontario, 74 Fullerton. We did have some high cloud cover roll in. This is what's left of Lowell, some of that high cloud cover getting pulled in by this trough of low pressure that is up to the north of us. And we have high pressure up to the west. They'll come into play later in the forecast. In the meantime, we've got that circulation around the low, which is counterclockwise. It gives us that onshore flow that gives us the marine layer, the cooler weather. Beautiful stuff. But as we go through the remainder of the forecast, things are changing quite a bit. And let's talk about one reason why. Hurricane Marie, winds of 150 miles an hour moving to the west-northwest. And as that continues to move to the west-northwest, we'll see that southerly swell build and build and build. As Tuesday, Wednesday comes around, we'll see that swell peak. And I'm going to show you in just a second how bad it's going to get. This is a future scan. It shows Monday we still have that trough bringing in that onshore flow, but it moves away on Tuesday, makes room for high pressure to build in. That means we start warming those temperatures up on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Going to be very warm on Thursday. There's Marie already by Wednesday bringing in that south flow, and that fetch over the ocean is going to push seas up to breakers 10 to 15 feet. Rip currents, beach erosion, property damage. This is a high surf advisory starting on Tuesday going through Friday afternoon. Stay out of the water, folks, this week. It's going to be dangerous, life-threatening type of surf that we haven't seen in a long time. Beaches overnight, mid-60s. Nice. Morning clouds at the coast and a little bit into the valleys as well, but not as bad as you saw this morning. Highs tomorrow about where they were today, but then we start that warm-up. 82 on Tuesday, back up to the upper 80s by Wednesday. The warmest day, Thursday, 91 in LA. How about that? Kind of hot. Maybe a little bit of high cloud cover from Marie as she spins way offshore from us. Valleys, IE, nice. 84, 87 on Tuesday. We're getting to the 90s again by midweek, back above average. And the mountains, no rain from Marie. I'm just going to keep some of those high clouds possibly. And temperatures approaching 80 on Thursday, which is beautiful. High desert, below average for a couple of more days before you get up close to 100 on Wednesday and Thursday. It's going to get toasty. So nice forecast except for that surf. It's going to be a real issue.
Got to be careful out there.
Can't stress it enough.
Thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
Coming up later tonight on Eyewitness News at 11 on ABC7, more of our big story, the destructive quake in Napa. The latest on the damage, the power outages, and how residents are recovering. We're live in the earthquake zone. And shocking video, a man climbing the Brooklyn Bridge and then walking along the beams. Why he did it. Those stories and all the late-breaking news on Southern California's #1 newscast. That's Eyewitness News at 11 on ABC7.
All right, time to talk sports. Kurt Sandoval joined us.
Really happy for Jared Weaver, who was good friends with young Nick Adenhart.
Yeah.
By the way, you covered in high school.
Back when he was at Williamsport High School in Western Maryland.
Incredible. Angel fans remember one of the darkest days in Angel history came 5 years ago. Young pitcher Nick Aidenhart was killed by that drunk driver down in Orange County. Today would have been his 28th birthday, and his former roommate and great friend Jared Weaver got the start in his honor in Oakland today. After 2 straight wins, I think the A's had some big heads coming into this one. Second inning, Eric Ibar says, I got the big head of the bat on that one, taking aim at Santa Rosa. Great effort by Sam Fuld, but nothing doing. The Angels with 2 there, they score 3 in the inning. Josh Hamilton homered in the 3rd inning, and then look at this pitch by Mike Trout. Now, the center field fence is 400. Folks, we watched it in replay. It actually hit the luxury box before it fell down, and it turns out the Angels, with a great power display, win it 9-4. Well, the Dodgers, they were like sleeping on the job today. I mean, that's just not adorable. The Mets just absolutely beat up on pitcher Kevin Correa. If you're counting feet, this one went 457 by former USC star Lucas Dudov. That from our crack ABC7 statisticians tonight. As it turns out, 5 runs for him, and that's the worst play I've ever seen by a Dodger. Yes, Seal Puig trying to run from second base, gets out at home, which turned out to be a triple play. Dodgers lose big time, 11-3. Big crowd on hand in Chicago, and rightly so, pulling for the kids at the Little League World Series finale in Williamsport. But boy, the folks from South Korea, they growing big out there. These kids, 12 years of age, average 145 pounds. At least for the baseball team, they do. All right, Korea wins it 8-4, denying the United States another title. Finally, in Arizona, former Trojan Carson Palmer in his final tune-up of the regular season. Boy, does he wish he has that one back. The Bengals, Terrence Newman takes it 54 yards to the house. It is preseason football, but it was a tough one as the Bengals take it 19-13 over the Cardinals.
Getting ready for that football. A week from Thursday.
That's awesome.
Let's go. Thanks, Kurt.
Good times. Good times coming.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, an update on the massive earthquake in Napa Valley.
And we'll have the latest on the injuries and the damage tonight.
Before we go, let's check the latest on that 6.0 earthquake in Napa because they have had more than 50 aftershocks and more are expected to come. The main quake struck at 3:20 a.m. this morning. More than 170 people were treated for quake-related injuries. One person remains in critical condition tonight. A 13-year-old boy was also injured and airlifted to UC Davis Children's Hospital in serious condition. The quake caused at least 6 fires. There are also reports of 100 gas leaks. Another problem, the water. The Napa Fire Department says 60 water mains ruptured during the quake and 7,000 customers remain without power tonight.
And thanks for joining us for Eyewitness News at 8 here on LA56. Law and Order SVU is next.
Eyewitness News continues at 11 p.m. on ABC7 and anytime on ABC7.com. Remember, you can get your news 24 hours a day on our ABC7 Facebook page and on Twitter.
See you tomorrow night at 8 right here on LA56 and tonight at 11 on ABC7.